know what? It'll be nice just to be able to go outside without sweating through your clothes on the way to the mailbox and back. Humidity here, like you guys cannot believe. But it's coming. It's September 2nd. And so maybe soon we can get to the fall close. Maybe the folks up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois aren't so excited about that idea. But down here, it's like you're ready for summer so you can, be outside. We're ready for fall so we can be outside because you guys go through the winters and we go through the summers. It's just too hot to be outside. And nobody's really sitting on the decks, at the restaurants or anywhere too much because it's just too hot. But I don't know what you did over the holiday weekend, but I'm actually glad to be back here at the desk. Because are you ready for this, folks? I moved 6.4 tons of rock. 6.4 tons of rock. I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, of course, 4 days. 6.4 tons. I'm saying it so that you don't think I misspoke. And I did it all by myself. I'm pretty happy about that. I am sore. Absolutely. I could barely write today. I was just trying to write something down. Like, ooh, why is it so hard to write? My hands and arms are so sore. But that's good. It means I got a good workout. And I did a lot of sweating, which is good. Get the toxins out, right? Because I sit at the desk too long. I text one of my friends, a doctor, an MD, and I sent him a picture of all the landscaping rock that I moved over the weekend. And you think he would send back a note like, hey, that's awesome. Great work. Looks nice. Yeah, it's nice landscaping rock, something I've been wanting to do for a while in the yard. And you think he would send a nice, encouraging note like that. You know what he said? He texted me back and he said, I didn't think you did manual labor. I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, wait a minute. Really? Logan, why would someone say that to me? Do I look that weak? Dr. Witcher said he was shocked. He didn't think I did manual labor. That was his response to my 6.4 tons of landscaping rock I spread. He was like, I didn't know you did manual labor. I'm like, yeah, I've done manual labor since, I was a little kid. I had to cut in 20 lawns a week in high school. Yeah. So anyway, I'm very happy to be back at the desk in the air conditioning and not shoveling rock. But to be honest with you, I couldn't shovel a lot of it. It's the big creek rock. And I had to actually move it with a 5-gallon bucket. Fill up the 5-gallon bucket off the pallet and then walk it and dump it and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that was a great workout. My wife said, what are you going to do next? I'm like, I don't know, because this was a really good workout. I don't like going to the gym working out. First of all, the gym I belonged to, I was surrounded by Muslims. I finally quit because I was literally surrounded by these Muslims that were just like buff. I mean, they were like buff. I'm like, if any of these guys figure out who I am, I'm not sure this is a good idea. So I canceled that membership a few years ago. And it's just boring. Am I the only one? Boring. This, working out's boring. But I love moving landscaping rocks. I suppose if I ever get thrown in the gulag, if they give me a job busting rocks, it wouldn't be the end of the world because at least you're accomplishing something, right? You go to the gym and you're like, what did you accomplish? I guess for your health, something, but not much got accomplished this weekend. Moving 6.4 tons of river rock, actually creek rock. Yeah, there was a lot accomplished. And that's one thing I like about manual labor. You get to stand back and see the fruits of your labor, right? I do a newscast, I do a program, and I don't get to necessarily see the fruits. I think the seed is falling on the soils out there, using biblical terminology now. And I know it's rendering fruit because we get the letters, we get the emails. But sometimes that takes a while for that crop to come in, for those fruits to be harvested, right? So and of course, what we're doing here is eternal, that's for sure. That's another thing I think about sometimes when I'm doing the manual labor, though, is you realize all of this is going to be burned, all going to be gone, all gone. I mean, so much of what we do here is just not going to last, is it? But what we do at this desk, I think a lot of this has eternal value. And you know what really made me excited last week was studying Revelation chapter 20 for Sunday night, and that so much of our millennial duties we're in training for right now. studying the Bible, to be ready to turn around and teach it to others, particularly those new Christians in the millennial kingdom, those who come in as baby Christians and those who are born who become Christians during that millennial kingdom. So there's different kinds of work, isn't there? All right. Joining me now is a man who clearly does his own working out. Have you ever seen Aaron in person? He has forearms like Popeye. You guys ever seen Popeye? He's got four. I don't know. The first things I noticed about him, he's the perfect height, number one. And number two, he has forearms like Popeye. This guy, I think he comes by it naturally with DNA, but he must work out a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he's moving creek rock too at his place. He joins us now. He's on the street, walking on the street. I have no idea where he's at tonight, but he's on the street, as I can see. Aaron, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon. Shalom from Jerusalem. I'm downtown Jerusalem on a beautiful Tuesday night, 9 p.m. And yeah, you were talking about a change in the season. Definitely dropped a few temperatures over the last couple of days, but it's still pleasant and it's refreshing after a very long, hot Israel summer. So
Yes.
Great to be with you.
Yes. You know, you guys probably have similar, I went out the other morning, 6:15. I was out working at 6:15 in the morning, and it was like 57 degrees. It was a little chilly, to go out there in short sleeves. I had on long pants because I was working out in the yard, but I had with these rocks, but I had on short sleeves. And I'm like, it's a little chilly, but I didn't do anything about it because I thought this will feel really good to work in this. And of course, by 1 o'clock, it's up in the 90s. And I bet you guys have that same kind of climate there in Israel. Mornings are kind of chilly, maybe start off chilly and then get warmer during the day.
It really varies here in Israel. Depends where you are. Like Jerusalem, in the mornings and in the evenings, it's exactly like that. In other places, like along the Mediterranean where I live, it's not so cold in the mornings, but I better watch out because there's trains coming each direction here. But yeah, it depends. I would say in another month, it's going to start to get chilly in the morning. Yes.
Wow. Now, I'm looking at your trains for the radio audience. There are trains going by you. You have obviously rail trains, or what are those called? I don't know what they call them here in the U.S., where they build them in the cities to get you around rail. What are they called? Rail lines or whatever. They build them through the cities. They have them in the Twin Cities and other places. They generally don't pay for themselves, but they end up being a real economic drain. I don't know how it is for your country, but I did not realize you had those kind of cars running through Jerusalem.
About 30 years ago, the Jerusalem municipality came up with an idea to have a light rail.
That's what it's called, light rail. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's a total winner. It brings down the combustion. Brings down the combustion, not so many cars in the city, number one. Number two, pollution. It brings down the pollution rate. And it's just a win-win. And now they're actually extending the rails in different directions. And they started to do it in Tel Aviv as well. And they're even thinking of doing it in the northern city of Haifa. So no, it's a total winner. And it's so cheap. You pay about, you can get all kinds of monthly or weekly or single passes. Very, very affordable here. Very reliable. Great system here. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. I did not realize that. I saw those whizzing by you. All right, let's talk about what's going on in your country beyond what we've already discussed, because I was reading in the news earlier this morning that you have now, 60,000 reservists being called up? Tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow, right?
Well, actually, Brennan, today, 40,000 out of those 60,000 turned up. And I read a report that not one person failed to turn up. Every one of the 40,000 turned up, and they're ready, Brandon. They've got spirit. They can smell that victory is close. And of course, we've got a lot of opposition with protests and things like that. And even some of those soldiers aren't really for doing what they're doing, but they know that right now, for the sake of national interest and security, it's got to be done. And so we are on the cusp of victory. And did you hear what Donald Trump said yesterday to Bibi? I mean, he said a week ago, basically he gave him more of a green light, but yesterday he said, Bibi, he said, get it done already. Finish them off.
Crush
They
Hamas.
they were the words that he used. And so, I mean, what more does Bibi Netanyahu need? And no wonder the religious Jews here in Israel love Donald Trump. You know, some people call him the Messiah.
Wow. Now, let me ask you in regards to the country and the fact that you can have 40,000 people called up and they all show up. I mean, that is something. What is going on in your culture? What is going on in your culture that you can call up 40,000 and every one of them shows up? Because that wouldn't happen. I don't think that would happen in America, right?
Brandon, I'm telling you, October the 7th has changed Israel forever. I picked up 3 guys from Missouri today from the airport. They're just here for a few days. And we're going to start looking around the country, and we're going to be praying at some places. But I've been saying the same thing. One of them, he's been here before, and I said, Terry, the Israel you're going to see today is going to be very, very different. Everything's changed. You know, October 7 woke us up. We realized that what our enemies say they mean, and what they mean they do and they say. And we can't afford to let any stone, if I can use the same term that you've been lifting and shifting, we cannot let any stone left unturned. We've got to finish them off. And so our Prime Minister, our Defense Minister, it's, you know, you read in the news that there is opposition, but in general, deep down, you know, people are for what's happening. And like I said, we're at the cusp. It's going to happen, and I'm hoping within, you know, the next few weeks, we're going to really be on top. Although our defense minister said this operation is going to take 4 to 6 months. So there's obviously things that they know that we don't know, but like maybe the destruction of more tunnels, what to do with the underground infrastructure and weapons. But we're already hearing in the news and talking about the day after. We're already talking about that. In fact, it was Donald Trump again. Did you hear what he's been saying about, do you remember directly after he was elected, remember what he put on the table? He said, Gaza Strip is going to be under American control.
All right, let's pick it up right there. The computer's going to take it away. I don't want to lose anything. And then U.S. is arranging jobs program for 40,000 Hezbollah terrorists? The businessman from Texas that spent years trying to bring the perfect red heifers to Israel is coming to speak in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis, on Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. They now have sacrificed one of those red heifers. There it is burning. They've now gained 10 gallons of ashes. Why do they need this? Well, the Old Testament, Numbers chapter 19 says that for the purification ceremony, for their temporary tabernacle or full-time temple, they need the ashes of a perfect red heifer. This is the first time this has happened in over 2,000 years. The story is going global. It's highly controversial. In fact, there's even a connection between the attacks on Israel on October 7th and these 5 red heifers. Come and hear him speak live in person, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details, worldviewstore.com, and to get your tickets, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. Of course, we're getting back to Aaron, but one of the big stories this weekend, folks, big story, great news, good news. President Trump came out and tweeted that I want to get to the bottom of this when it comes to the COVID shot. Was Operation Warp Speed a big success, which he's been touting, right? Again, last week he touted it, a few weeks before that. And every time he does, we're like, whoa, don't do that. Your base doesn't agree with you. They have too many family and friends that have died. Some of them have lost their health over this bioweapon shot. Infertility, babies dead, people dead, blood clots. Stop touting this thing. And it makes one wonder who is around President Trump, right? That's what we've been saying. Pray for him. Well, apparently somebody got through. Somebody got through, and he put out a very blunt social media post this weekend saying, we're going to get to the bottom of this. I want to know what's going on with this shot, with this Operation Warp Speed. This is big news. Of course, we're going to cover that tonight on Brandon House Live. But joining me now live from Israel is our reporter on the ground and our tour guide. And last week, he did a tour for us of Jericho. He joins us, Aaron Lavarco, lighttothenationsministry.com, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Hey, by the way, don't forget our national conference is like 1 week from tonight is the banquet. 1 month from tonight's the banquet. And then October 3rd, October 4th, that's a Friday night and Saturday. And yes, thanks to Aaron, we're going to have Byron Stinson with us. The man that brought the 5 red heifers to Israel will be speaking for us live in person, along with Gordon Chang and so many others. By the way, did you hear that Europe, it's in my Worldview report tonight, Europe is telling their hospitals to prepare for World War III and soldiers by March of 2026, to be treating soldiers by March of 2026. What is NATO planning? And if NATO decides to go to war with Russia, are they going to drag President Trump into that, which means America? Oh, there's so much to get to tonight. Joining me now is, what I was going to say is, don't miss out on this year's conference. If you're interested, all the details are at worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com. Saw someone register over the weekend from Washington State. People coming from all over the country. Wisconsin, of course. Minnesota, Illinois. Worldviewstore.com for full details. If you have a Vault membership, you're going to be able to live stream it. Nothing like being here in person, but you'll be able to live stream it. Worldviewtube.com/vault for more details on that. All right, let's go back to Aaron. In the streets of Jerusalem, President Trump said, we're gonna develop Gaza. Where are we at with that? Because he's told Israel, finish Hamas. No more negotiations.
Well, this is a huge issue, Brandon. When he talked about it just after he was elected, he left it on the table. He stood back. He looked at everyone's response. Egypt hated the idea. The Arab League hated the idea. No one picked up on it. He hasn't said a word about it until a few days ago. All of a sudden, it's back on the table and it is alive and kicking. He has got plans. He's going to create jobs. They're gonna take years to clean it up. Then they're going to make it the Riviera of the Middle East. Israel is going to be a big part of it. An international force is going to be part of it. Where this is going, Brandon, I don't know. Of course, I have my concerns. Is it going to, somewhere in that list, it was mentioned an international force. What does that mean? And what part Israel is going to play? Big question marks, and of course, big concerns. On top of that, we've got members of our right-wing government who are religious. They don't want to see this happen, Brandon. They want to annex it for us. They say it's our land. And this is where, I'm getting a number of Messianic Jews here in the land really voicing their concern, saying, as much as we appreciate what Donald Trump is wanting to do, wage a peace, bring peace, get rid of Hamas, root them out from under those tunnels. At the end of the day, it's not his land. It's not America's land. And that is a concern. Now, I always bring this man into the picture, and that's Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee, he knows what I just said is true. He knows that it's Israel's land. You don't get too many greater biblical Zionists who know all about the promise of the land. So we've been praying for him. We've been praying that he will be a voice in the ears of Trump. So maybe it's a short-term plan. Maybe it's a long-term plan. Maybe he hopes to hand it over to Israel.
Well, let's stop right there, because if America in any way takes control of that, that would be deemed dividing America. Dividing Israel. And we know that the Lord says in the book of Revelation that one of his sticking points is what? You divided my land. Talk about the enemies of Israel, right?
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. Right now, Gaza is not in our hand. So it's already divided. You know, if I could be an advocate for Donald Trump, I would say, okay, it's already divided. He's coming in as kind of the sheriff to clean it up, maybe. And that's what I said, question marks. What is his plan? Is it long-term? Is it short-term? Does he want to hand it over to Israel? Is this just his way of beginning? He's a tactician. He's a smart guy. And I'm sure, as I've said, Mike Huckabee is in there. I'm hoping, I'm praying that he's speaking what we're talking about in the ears of Donald Trump. Big question marks over this, where this is going. And of course, a big part of it, I would imagine, is it's going to also be connected to the Abraham Peace Accords. No doubt about him wanting to get other Gulf state and other Arab nations to sign up. And he's already asking some of those Muslim Arab nations to fund the rebuilding of the Gaza Strip. So that also is a concern. If they fund it, does that mean that they're going to have their stake in the Gaza Strip? Big question.
That's a big question. And here's another one that might shock many of the viewers and you even, and listeners. Israel News, World Israel News. U.S. arranging jobs program, quote, jobs program, for 40,000 Hezbollah terrorists. We have, quote, this is Trump's envoy, Tom Barak. Quote, we have 40,000 people being paid by Iran to fight. What are you going to do with them? Take their weapon and say, by the way, good luck planting olive trees? It can't happen. We have to help them, end quote. Okay. This is where I, again, get angry. And every listener, you should be angry. You get up every day, you work hard, you pay your taxes, and they want to take your hard-earned money and they want to give it to jihadis, Hezbollah, Iranian terrorists, because the poor terrorists, they're being paid right now and they're being asked to put down their guns and not get paid. So you Americans, you should pay for the terrorists to sit at home. Are you serious, Tom Barak? Are you a moron? You want the average American who's breaking their back right now, working beyond, quote, retirement age, even though I don't believe in retirement. But many of them are working because they cannot afford to quit because of inflation and their homeowner's insurance spiking and their car insurance spiking and their grocery bill spiking. And yes, gasoline prices are down for the first time this low in 5 years, but whoop-de-doo when everything else has skyrocketed 40, 50%, and the dollar's lost a gazillion points this year since January. Some say 17% or more in purchasing power since January. And so a lot of folks, I'm sorry, the debased dollar, they can't afford to stop working. Some of them have had to go back to work. And this rocket scientist, Tom Barak, is making excuses for American taxpayers to pay these guys? The insanity. You know, the thing about the Trump administration is he's got some really smart people, and then he just has some first-class Romans 1 fools in his administration. Fools. Tied to Big Pharma, tied to Pfizer, jihadis who've come out of prison for 20 years, put on the faith committee, Paula White, whose name is not in the Lamb's Book of Life. I can promise you that from her theology, her doctrine. Praying at an Istar dinner, shaking her head, I'm told. I haven't even stomached it to go watch the video, but multiple people telling me she was shaking her head, yes. So, you know, these are the kind of people. This man is surrounded, President Trump, due to his lack of discernment, because the man himself is not a Christian. There's no indication he is. He's still trying to work his way to heaven. I'm sorry I'm being blunt and offending some of you, but the truth is the truth. No wonder he surrounds himself. He himself is not a Christian, so how are you going to have the Holy Spirit make good decisions? And you're surrounded by people that come up with some of the most ridiculous ideas. paying money to Iranian jihadists because they are out of work from not getting paid to do jihad. Can you even believe we're talking like this, Aaron?
Brandon, I'm in shock. I did not know about that report that you just shared. I genuinely am in shock. What is his plan? What you mentioned the word discernment. Unless he has some kind of strategy, of some kind of plan to reform them, or maybe it's going to be hard labor. Hey, you know what? Maybe he's planning on them moving heavy stones and rocks. I hear that it's hard work. Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
But
maybe they should be
seriously.
pounding rock. Well, he claims, quote, we have to have money coming into the system. The money will come from the Gulf, end quote. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are partners and are willing to do that for the south of Lebanon if we're asking a portion of the Lebanese community to give up their livelihood, end quote. Okay, I'm not buying it, number one, that's where all the money will come from, because we know we give billions and billions of dollars in foreign aid. So I'm not buying it that it's going to come from the Gulf. It's going to come from us. Quote, we have 40,000 people that are being paid by Iran to fight. What are we going to do with them? Take their weapons and say, by the way, good luck planting olive trees? We have to help them. Lebanon submitted a detailed response to earlier U.S. disarmament proposals in July, delivering what Barack called a spectacular 7-page document. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed Lebanon's disarmament decision Monday, saying Israeli forces could begin withdrawing from the territory they hold in southern Lebanon if Hezbollah lays down its arms. Okay. Again, his comments prompted sharp criticism, Barack's did, from Lebanon's press syndicate, which demanded an apology from Barack and the State Department. That's because he had criticized the Lebanese journalists, warning them to act civilized, act kind, act tolerant. What makes these guys think that you can somehow make peace with these people, give them jobs, give them aid, and they're gonna be nice? That's not gonna happen. You know it. I know it. I'm gonna let you comment on this. The music's playing. We got World War III brewing. They seem very, very set on going to war. And now the hospitals are being warned by the French government to prepare for casualties, including foreign soldiers, that would mean NATO soldiers, by March of 2026. It seems as though the globalists are pushing for a war to strike up in the Middle East, to make sure that happens, World War III and other parts of the world. And is all that a part of creating segments? We'll be right back.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. 2 p.m. Central work for you today. Stayed at home, went to bed. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio website, worldviewradio.com. All right, I wonder, Aaron, if you want to comment on all this, because I want to go to Alex here in a minute, Newman, but I'm starting to think that regional conflicts and global conflicts are more and more about creating unions, the 10 regions of the world, okay? And that's why I have to sometimes wonder if some of this isn't really orchestrated on purpose, right? And even the tariffs. I even think these tariffs by Donald Trump fit into the idea of regionalism and regional government. And I'll get into that in a minute with Alex. But I think this is all helping to set the stage for not only a world leader to step on the scene and offer up his false peace, as we see in the first unveiling of the scroll, but also 10 regions. And we know the Antichrist, according to Daniel, has to pull 3 of them up by the roots and replace them to get his 10 federation of nations. But I have to think a lot of this conflict and war is about regionalism. What are your thoughts?
So my question in response to that, Brandon, is it conscious that this is happening, or is it just he's going along and making decisions based on his own humanism, his own rationale, and it just so happens that it's going to turn and form these regions and these confederations? It definitely, there's something about what you're saying for sure, and the dust hasn't settled yet, but we're in the middle of it. The other thing that comes to my mind as we're talking about it, Brandon, is after the Second World War, you know, who would have thought today that the relations between Israel and Germany would be, I mean, it's not perfect, but, you know, we're generally pretty friendly with Germany. It just goes to show that when you think of what the Germans and the Nazis and the Austrians did to us in the Holocaust, you know, the hatred from the Jews towards them and the pain, and yet, you know, a couple of generations later, there is peace. I wonder if part of Donald Trump's motivation, whether he not only wants a Nobel Peace Prize, but he really does want to bring about reform, you know, paying for 40,000 Hezbollah soldiers, terrorists. I don't know if that's the right way of doing it, but I just wonder at times what is motivating him in some of these decisions. Or maybe he's already had discussions away from the public, that things that we don't know about. But I do see what you're saying as far as what can be formed out of it. And that's really good insight, what you're saying. Absolutely.
All right. So where is our next tour? You took us to the to Jericho, actually, last week. Where are you going this week?
Yeah. Well, I'm in Jerusalem for a couple of days, so I think I'm going to be doing some filming while I'm here. Actually, right behind me, you can see laying down is a huge pillar. You know, in the tourism world, we call that King Og's finger. There was a Canaanite king, King Og, and we don't know if it was his, but they've nicknamed it King Og's finger. It's a massive pillar that we found here in Jerusalem, dating back thousands of years. We don't know enough history to really comment, but in any event, it's called King Og's finger. But I'm gonna go around Jerusalem, and I'll take a few videos while I'm here. So Jerusalem's going to be next.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. LightToTheNationsMinistry.com, and brought to you by our foundation, WorldviewFoundation.com. As always, Aaron, great to see you. Beautiful night in Jerusalem, downtown. Yeah. Have a great couple days touring with some guys from Missouri.
Thank you. God bless.
You too. Aaron Lavarco, our reporter, and also not only our reporter, but our tour guide. We asked him to do some 30-minute, we could do them in 30-minute segments, and we give him a little honorarium for all those folks so that we can build up a channel of touring Israel. Isn't that a great idea? And we're getting so much great feedback, people thanking us for that. But we gotta support him as he educates us. WorldviewFoundation.com helps us send him love offerings to do these kind of reports and this kind of touring on video. WorldviewFoundation.com. All right. Joining me now is Alex Newman, who will be one of the keynote speakers at our upcoming event, worldviewstore.com, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. He'll be speaking on many big topics related to the New World Order, globalism, transhumanism, technocracy, digitalization of everything. But he's also going to work in how it's all helping to move us toward regional governments, something that myself and other Bible prophecy guys have been talking about for a long time, because the Bible talks about it in Revelation and Daniel. And we believe the Bible, trust the Bible, and look how it's coming to pass with the UN, Club of Rome, European Union Commission, talking about dividing the world into 10 regions. I got a great email today from Tim from Pensacola. And he will be attending our conference here in Memphis, outside of Memphis, Collierville. And he's also really tracking the regionalization of government and the conflicts and how they're pushing us toward regional units. He reminded me of that article from back in 2009 by Henry Kissinger. Do you remember the article? We talked about it at the time. The Chance for a New World Order. He was talking about the incoming Barack Hussein Obama. But if you use the old Control F on your computer, type in the word regional, regional comes up 5 times. Regional mercantilism, regional Asian structure, competing regional units. We can't have that. Such a return to mercantilism and 19th century diplomacy would divide the world into competing regional units with dangerous long-term consequences. Regional agreements. Isn't that where we're headed? Let's talk about that with Alex Newman. Alex, welcome to the broadcast again. Thanks for being with us. What are your thoughts on what we were talking about? We got, I don't know if you heard what Aaron and I were talking about. We got the government of France warning the hospitals to prepare for soldiers hurt, a flood of patients, many of them looking to be foreign victims, which means, I guess NATO is planning to go to war with Russia. They're saying prepare for war with Russia and that they should be ready to go by March of 2026. They expect this will break out within the next 6 months to 12 months, but they're saying you need to be ready to go by March of 2026. Now, if you've got foreign soldiers, foreign victims, I'm guessing, and this is the French Ministry of Health, it'll be on tonight's Worldview Report, they are planning on NATO getting involved. And I have to wonder if NATO isn't going to get the U.S. involved. And I have to wonder again if we're not back to the desire for Israel to be involved in a war with Iran, World War III, us with China, and then, of course, with Russia. We're talking about now. All of this is to create this regionalism of government. What are your thoughts?
There's no question that that's what's going on, Brandon. And, you don't have to be a dot connector. We don't have to speculate because we know from their own writings, from their own documents. Henry Kissinger said it very, very clearly in his final big book on this subject. It was called World Order. And he said, I'm quoting directly, the contemporary quest for world order requires dividing the world up into regional orders and then relating these regional orders one to another. And of course, the premier example of this, which Klaus Schwab talked about in his book on the Great Reset, which Zbigniew Brzezinski, National Security Advisor to Jimmy Carter, founder of the Trilateral Commission with Rockefeller, explained, is the European Union. The European Union was the model. And at every step of the way, they lied to people, right? First, it was the European coal and steel community. Oh, we're just going to cooperate on coal and steel. And before long, it was a European economic community, and then a European community, and then a European economic union. And now we're full-blown European Union where the EU has more power even than the federal government does in the United States, whether you like it or not, right? Whether you vote against it or not, doesn't matter. So this is the model they're exporting to the whole world. The African Union is, of course, having the Africans are having an African Union imposed upon them. Putin is very carefully and very strategically building his Eurasian Union. Here in the United States, they've been working on a North American Union for many, many years. In fact, going back decades, it was originally a project of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Latin Americans are having multiple unions imposed on them. The Union of South American States, the CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean Nations. So the whole world is coming under these regional governments. And they're giving different excuses, but one of the main excuses that they use is actually defense, right? And so in the case of the European Union, the leaders of the European Union are telling the Europeans that they have to surrender more sovereignty. They have to move into a full-blown military union because otherwise big bad Vladimir Putin will get them. Meanwhile, Putin is saying the same thing. Oh, the evil Europeans, the NATO, they're trying to hurt the motherland. We all need to join forces and create a Eurasian Union. So So this is a script. It's a carefully controlled script. Putin, of course, is a young global leader of the World Economic Forum, as Klaus Schwab put it. And you can't understand geopolitics without understanding that this is the stated objective, to divide the world up into regional governments and then play these regional governments off one another, have some form alliance, very much like in 1984. Some form alliances, some go to war with each other with the goal of constantly strengthening these regional governments so that eventually, as you alluded to, the biblical text references this, they can all be combined. They can all give their power to one system, one leader that would dominate the globe. So the regionalization model is an interim step, and it is happening right in our faces. And I think this plays right into the war issue that you mentioned, Brandon. In fact, right when Ukraine and Russia started fighting, I actually warned that this was the likely outcome. They were going to try to blow it up into at least a major regional war, if not a global war, and that one of the key goals would be to strengthen the Eurasian Union and strengthen the European Union. And that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen multiple independent countries now join NATO, Sweden, Finland, even the Swiss have been talking about it. We've seen the European Union expand drastically in terms of its power under the guise of keeping everyone safe from Russia, and we're seeing Putin do the same thing. So very, very clear pattern here, very clear agenda. You cannot understand what's happening in the world without understanding this component of it.
I want to go to my book, The Coming Religious Reich, from back in 2016. And guys, you don't need to buy it. If you're a member of the Vault, all my books are ebook in there for you. And if you go to The Coming Religious Reich, page 78, for those of you who have the book, I talk about Jean Monnet, really the father of the European Union. He had 5 steps for creating these unions. 1, economics, free trade partnerships. 2, open borders, shared citizenship, and monetary system. And I think we're going to go to biometrics, folks. I think this whole idea of getting all the criminals and everybody out of here is a nice idea. I'm all for it, no doubt about it. But I think we're going to end up having an open border, a North American Union, and the biometrics will be the way it's done, right? And what will happen is, I think, and I can stop on that one right now and go to the other in our conversation, those 5. But I was talking to some very conservative people that came over for dinner on Friday night. These are folks that my wife and I've talked about with the radio audience, TV audience for years. They're both the couples are old enough to be my parents. They have children my age, maybe just a year or 2 older, and they raised their children at Bellevue Baptist, Adrian Rogers' former church before he passed away, right? Very conservative, Bible-believing, prophecy-based people. They love what we do. They follow us. They're big supporters of what we're doing. And we had those 2 couples over for dinner. And one of them said, moving all of these Mexicans out of the country is a problem. The criminal's good, but some of these Mexicans, we need them. We need them. And you know what? I don't know what part of I do know what part of the country you live in, but they are great carpenters and they're doing work that's so needed. I want to talk about how that could force us to accept biometrics.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. WorldviewTube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the WorldviewTube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the WorldviewTube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the WorldviewTube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching WorldviewTube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider on over 100 outlets nationwide at 2 p.m. Central on the VCY America Radio Network. And if you're not listening to one of their blowtorch stations, you can online at vcy.org if you don't have one in your market. V is in Victor, vcy.org. One of our clips the other day, one of them, just one of them. What is that number up to, guys? 1. clip. Yeah. It 1.4 on just one account. Yeah, 200,000 on another, the same clip. So that one clip is done 1.6. Yeah, that one clip. We have these clips of truth and nuggets we put out there, and apparently people are loving this kind of information. Hopefully along the way, they're not only finding out about us, but also vcy.org. All right, now, Alex Newman, libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. So I was a little shocked to hear one of my conservative friends, older conservative, saying, well, we need some of these folks here. They're great workers. We need some of them here. And I'm hearing more and more people in the country say, we can't have all of them leaving because some of them are just very, very vital to the businesses. Now, I know a lot of them are trying to hire people that are legal, that have work permits, or are now on the verge of being citizens. But I'm wondering if part of this isn't also, Alex, again, to get the people to go where they normally wouldn't go, right? Now they feel the pressure, the pain, they're having hiring problems, prices are going up. Okay, we've heard from the people, then you need to do biometrics. All of us can do biometrics, and our good friends from Mexico can come back in and help us be a successful country. And what the people would not accept otherwise, they will now say, all right, if it takes getting back some of these great people that have great skills, brick masonry and sheetrock and different things they do, we need them. Particularly if you're going to have a building boom that President Trump's trying to have in 2026, declaring a housing emergency, making some moves to get building going again. I wonder if this is going to get some folks in America to say, I'm willing, because I was a little shocked that my older conservative friend said that. I can see where and agree with some of that, honestly. But now maybe even the conservatives are going to come around to say, we got to have a solution. Okay, biometrics. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no question about it, Brandon. I warned even before Donald Trump was sworn in that one of the big tasks for the establishment during the Trump presidency was try to find a way to make national biometric identification and digital ID seem like a conservative solution to the very problems that they have unleashed on us, including mass illegal immigration, including the massive voter fraud that we all know about. And of course, we're all concerned about those things, but the solution is not to give up more freedom and to go toward a digital biometric ID.
Right.
Now, when it comes to Mexico, I grew up in Mexico. I spent more time living in Mexico than any other place. I'm the equivalent of a green card holder for Mexico. I love Mexico. I love the Mexican people, not like I love my own country. But these are decent people. But this is the same scam that they used in Europe. Right? They told the Europeans, oh, you don't have enough this kind of worker. Oh, you don't have enough that kind of worker. So not only do we need to open up all the borders within the European Union, we need to import millions of Africans, millions of Muslims from across the Middle East. And it was simply not true, right? I taught economics. I taught advanced economics for 12 years. And these are some very simple economic principles. If there are not enough workers in a particular industry, what happens is wages rise in that particular industry, whether it's masons or bricklayers or framers, whatever the case may be, and that attracts more people into that sector. All this really does, opening up the border to low-skilled, low-education workers from south of the border, is it drives down wages for the most vulnerable Americans, the people who are trying to work their way into the middle class, the people who are trying to buy a house to feed their family. Now they have to compete with low-wage labor from south of the border. It doesn't affect so much the white-collar people, although now we're seeing a lot of that in programming, but all this does is drive down wages for Americans. We don't need to import a bunch of workers. We have plenty of people in this country who are quite capable of working, and if the cost of a particular trade rises, that'll cause more people to flow into that trade. It'll bring wages back down again, and we can do whatever we need to do, including building, including farming, anything else we need to do in this country. We've got plenty of people to do it.
So you agree that we may be going through a Hegelian dialectic to get the American people to accept biometrics?
Absolutely. There's no question. I don't even think that's May. I think that is exactly what's happening. It's the same strategy they always use. They cause a problem, then they wait for the reaction, then they impose their solution. This is something that the great French lawmaker Frédéric Bastiat 200 years ago identified with totalitarians. He said they concoct the poison and the antidote in the same laboratory. That's what we're watching here. They opened up the border. They flooded our country with terrorists and illegal immigrants. They are the ones who caused these problems. They're the ones who unleashed the voter fraud on us. Now they're saying, oh, sorry about that, but don't worry. We've got a solution for you. And as always, it means less freedom, less privacy for you, more power for them.
And I don't know what the market's like where you live, but where I live, if you want to get some guy to do sheetrock or something, we had a leak again. Because again, here in the South, our AC units are all above our heads because they don't have basements because the water table's too high. And so we came in today and an AC unit's leaked and the sheetrock is fallen down and the lights are now hanging off and about to drop. This is our life. You know, it's ridiculous, particularly when you have so many AC units to keep all this stuff cool. And thankfully, there wasn't a $60,000 switcher below it, which was literally on the other side of the other room. So it didn't leak all over that. But if you want to call someone to repair that, if you call an American, they're going to be weeks behind. But I'm telling you right now, I can pick up the phone, and I did, and I call some of my Hispanic buddies, and they're like, we'll be there tomorrow. So I don't know what the market's like where you are, but here, a lot of the Americans, they're backed up. They're really backed up. And yet I call up my Hispanic friends in the area, and they can be here within a day. And this has been routine, plumbing, electrical, whatever. So I don't know what's going on. All I think is we've sent too many kids to college with useless degrees and not enough of them into the service industry that can run these jobs, run these companies. So something's going on. Let's go to the list again. Jean Monnet, Economic Free Trade Partnership was number one. Open borders, shared citizenship, and monetary system. Well, we're going to go with this, some kind of shared monetary system with the digital IDs and all that. They're doing that. Then external security partnerships through solidarity in foreign policy, internal security, common rule of law and enforcement, and then total control by a super government of human rights and social progress. We got to have you back because I think even the tariffs are playing into this regionalism. Closing comment on that.
Yeah, they are, and we should talk about that further. I've done good articles on this in the New American Magazine. I would encourage people to check them out. I'll be speaking on this also at the conference, so go check it out and get to my website, libertysentinel.org. Thank you, Brandon.
Hold right there, Alex. Thank you. We're done on the VCY network, but here comes Jim Schneider with Crosstalk at vcy.org here in the next few minutes. Thanks for watching and listening. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube. A couple more minutes with Alex Newman. Alex, tell our audience still with us here how you think, whether he knows it or not, and I'm not sure he does, how do you think, because I was reading some articles on this today, how the tariffs are playing into regionalism?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Brandon, but what we're seeing is a lot of governments are responding to Trump's tariffs and threat of tariffs by digging in their heels on these regional blocs. And unfortunately, if you look back to the first administration, they actually succeeded in duping, I believe it was duping Donald Trump into giving away a huge amount of sovereignty to a multilateral regime. And I actually was asked to write a memo about this for the president by one of his top advisors. I'm told that he read it. He knew what was going on here, but I think he was being told by people like Robert Lighthizer from the Council on Foreign Relations that the economic benefits outweighed the loss of sovereignty, and we could always protect our sovereignty later. But if you look at the USMCA, this was the NAFTA on steroids, right? It radically expanded the areas of law that came under North American jurisdiction, under the jurisdiction of these kangaroo tribunals and bureaucracies. So even in Donald Trump's first term, he helped this agenda along. I don't believe he did it wittingly. In fact, over and over again, he spoke of the danger of these multilateral trade agreements that infringed on our sovereignty. So his heart was in the right place. He knew what was going on. Now, you look at what's happening in this administration, what we're seeing is a lot of governments, instead of saying, all right, we'll deal with you, Donald Trump, they're saying, hey, let's get with our regional bloc and let's negotiate together. Let's negotiate collectively. And that's what we saw with Europe, right? We ended up signing a deal with the European Union instead of with the nation states of Europe. So this is a very dangerous trend. And unfortunately, the globalists are making lemonade out of lemons, and they're using this effort by Donald Trump to shore up our economy and bring back some of our jobs to further their agenda for regionalization of government.
Yeah. So reality, the wars, the tariffs, and how do you think then the digital currencies and the BRICS will play into that regionalization?
Yeah, I think we're going to see these different regional blocks playing off each other. I mean, the end goal is, of course, a one world currency, and they've already got the infrastructure in place for that through the Bank for International Settlements and the IMF. But if you go back to the George W. Bush administration, this was back in 2007, the U.S. ambassador to Canada wrote a cable back to the State Department, signed it with his own hand, and they were talking about the prospects of a North American Union. They were talking about a North American currency. The president of Mexico at that time, Vicente Fox, also very loudly started advocating for an Amero, a regional currency. And so I think what we're going to see, the European Union has already rolled out the digital euro. They've already rolled out the digital wallets. Putin is, of course, rolling out the digital ruble. What will happen? And it probably won't happen under Donald Trump because it would be too egregious. He wouldn't go for it. But there are people in his administration who support this. They'll say, look, the Europeans now have a regional digital currency. The Russians, the Eurasian Union has that. The Africans are working on an Afro currency. We need to keep up with the times, right? We don't want to be backwards cavemen still clinging to our guns and Bibles and paper currency. And so what they're doing now with the CBDCs, they're nationalizing a lot of the private cryptocurrencies, not in the sense that they're taking ownership, but they're taking control of them through the Stable Act, through the Genius Act, now through the Clarity Act, where all the same controls that exist on the CBDC in all but name will now be applied to things like Bitcoin, things like cryptocurrency. So I believe we will see a major attempt to bring about a digital regional currency, even here in the United States, probably within the next 10 years or less.
And now there's an article that we're linking over at Worldview Report. I listened to this interview 3 times. 3 times I listened to this over the holiday break while I was working, moving rock. Debt-based capitalism is over, gives way to asset-based system. It was an interview or a show done, I should say, by a guy on YouTube that tracks markets and real estate. Warren Buffett just made a shocking move that nobody's talking about. It could completely change how you think about buying a home. Well, what he's done here, folks, is he has reportedly dumped $1 billion on Lennar and D.R. Horton, home builders. And apparently what's going on, according to this report, is BlackRock and others are buying up whole neighborhoods. These builders build these homes, and it's called build to rent. They're never going really on the market other than right to a BlackRock type cup. He buys up a whole neighborhood. And I think it fits with the idea that it's largely we're going to become a nation of renters. Are you familiar with this? Got 30-second closing coming.
Absolutely. That goes right along with what the World Economic Forum said. You will own nothing. You get to rent everything, you little serf. So, folks, we've got to resist. We've got to do it now.
Got to resist. All right, libertysentinel.org, right? Or is it the Liberty Sentinel?
Yep. LibertySentinel.org, classicalconversations.com, thenewamerican.com. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Thank you. LibertySentinel.org, and he'll be with us as a keynote speaker Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details, worldviewstore.com. All right, we're going to get into some of this tonight. Debt-based capitalism is over, gives way to asset-based system. Very fascinating, is it not? Patrick Wood on that tonight. Robert Spencer tonight. I don't know who else I got. Oh, I think I've got a commander, a former Navy commander joining me tonight. Lots going on tonight, 7:30 Central, Brandon House Live. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research.
Colonel Rob Manus has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation, having worked